So a question I commonly get asked is where to find logs for milling and where do I get my logs? Most of the stuff you see me milling, like all the stuff here, is all urban logs, which is a fancy word for a yard tree. It's a tree that was growing in someone's yard for however many years and was removed for whatever reason. I think that's a really good way to go, at least for me, because it allows you to get some really big logs, some really old stuff that actually has a story. And especially if you can talk to the homeowner, they'll be really excited to see these things turn into something that's not just firewood. Mosquitoes. So depending on how many logs you want and how much volume you want to do, there's a few different options. First, you can talk to tree services and arborists, and they can maybe give you a call when they're removing a tree that you might want, or they could tell you where they bring their logs to be dumped. This all has to go somewhere, so they have to dump their stuff somewhere. You might be able to get into the dump site and pick up a log from one of the giant piles there that are waiting in the chipper. Now, another thing you can do is talk to your city. They maintain what's called an urban forest, which is just basically all the trees on city property, along the streets and in the parks, places like that. And those trees come down for all kinds of different reasons as well. So if you can let the city know that you're doing this and they are removing trees in an area, maybe you see them working in a park, you can talk to them and they will probably give you those logs because there's less things for them to dispose of. Now, the last thing you can do if you're in an expanding urban area is find yourself a land clearing company. If you live in a part of the country or a part of the world where there are trees on the land that is going to be developed into residences or commercial space or whatever, all those trees have to be removed before structures can be built most of the time. So these land clearing companies, they come in and they clear cut everything, get the whole site ready for development. Those logs have to go somewhere. Most of the time it goes on site into a giant chipper, but sometimes they also sell a whole truckload of logs. So the disadvantage there is you have to be willing to take or have the capacity to take, most of the time, a whole semi-truck load of logs, but you can get them for really cheap. So the majority of the logs I find will be on Craigslist, and it works out really well for me since the stuff I mill here is all really just recreational for me. I'm just trying to have fun, and I don't have a whole lot of time or a whole lot of space for milling stuff all the time. So I can be really selective with the logs that I choose and the opportunities I take there. So the thing with Craigslist is you never know what you're going to find. You never know when someone's going to pop up, and I really enjoy that aspect of it because this side of urban logging, it's really all about the chase. And you never know what you're going to find, and you never know when the opportunity is going to come. So I don't know, just a little bit of unknowing is just a lot of fun. So on Craigslist, what I'll do is I'll hop onto the main page, and when people post trees or logs on there, they'll post them in whatever kind of weird categories they would want. So I'll just run a search on the whole site for my search terms. And the search terms that I'm going to use the most are tree, firewood, one word, firewood, two words, and occasionally I'll try log, but log is usually covered just fine by the first three. So the search term tree has been the best search term I've had success with. What I'm trying to find there is people that have removed a tree, they had a tree down. I'm searching in the description essentially that they were talking about having a tree in their yard being removed. But unfortunately, I mean, you could probably get this filtered a little better. You're going to have to kind of sort through a lot of junk because tree is a pretty vague word. And then I'll sort them all by newest so that I can kind of come back and see the ones I haven't seen yet. So this is all of the things on Craigslist right now that have the word tree in them. So I just kind of scroll through and you can kind of see we already have one here. Here's some free firewood that's about 20 minutes from my house. So looking at this here, doesn't look super desirable. Looks like an older red oak log just kind of sitting on a hillside with some smaller logs. Probably not the easiest thing to get to, but could be fun. But I'm not that desperate at this point. So we'll go back here and we'll keep looking through this list here. So one thing you're going to come across, especially under the search terms for firewood, is just firewood rounds. And if you're a turner, it's perfect because everything's already cut up for you. They're manageable. You can roll them onto a trailer, or if they're small enough, you can pick them up and put them in the back of a pickup. So for turning, there's like a lot more opportunities for wood. And if you can pick up like a whole tree that's cut up into firewood rounds like that, you could have enough turning blanks to last you for a really long time. So of course you got all the people trying to get rid of Christmas trees and Christmas ornaments. So here are a couple of black walnut logs. Let's take a look at these. So here's something else to come across as well, is I'm looking for things that are free. These things don't really have a whole lot of value just laying in someone's yard. They actually have like no value essentially. So you're gonna have to sort through the people that want money for their logs or their trees, and you're also going to sort through the people that want you to come cut down their tree for free. I don't do that. I don't cut down trees on people's yards. That's not a really good thing as far as liability goes. And then as far as people wanting money for their logs, most of the time it's ludicrous the amount of money they want, and that's not the type of person you want to have to deal with, because they already have it set in their mind that their thing is valuable. It's not. So you're looking for the people that are trying to get rid of something that they don't want. They're trying to get rid of garbage. It's a waste product they're trying to get off their property. That's what you're looking for. Unless there's someone that you really find that has a log that's really desirable and they actually put a reasonable price on something, like $100 for a big log, otherwise it's pretty much not worth your time. At least it's not worth my time. I'm not going to go out there and pay $400 or $500 for a log. It's not worth it, especially being a yard tree. All right, here we go. Here's a good one. There's a piece of silver maple. Looks like it's somewhere near where a car could be, which is also a good factor, is how accessible are these things. If they're stuck in someone's backyard that you can't get to with your truck or your loading equipment, then it's really not going to be of any benefit to you. So it looks like we have a really big trunk and a few limbs sitting there, so this is definitely a good candidate. So it's sort of the way that I go about weighting things a little bit to kind of determine if I actually want to go and pursue this is going to be the desirability of the log, how big is it, and what species is it to have some interesting character to it, things like that, and then location. The further away these things are, the less desirable they are. So in this case, this is a big log, and it is 3 miles from my house. So this is something that I would want to go get. And I saw this one yesterday. I emailed the lister, and she said that it's right by her driveway. So that's a plus. I can drive right up to it. I can come pick it up whenever I need to. And it's only 3 miles from my house. So we're going to go pick this up. So let's take a look at what I'll be bringing with me. Of course, most obviously, the trailer with the log lift. And on the trailer right now, I have a chain holding the arch down, which is going to be one of my chains I'll have with me, as well as my ratcheting binder, which I'll use later on for securing the log down to the trailer. So here's the things I'll be taking with me in the back of the truck. I have both my chainsaws just in case I have to cut something. In this case, I probably won't be using these because the stuff's already cut to size, but you never know, you might need to trim something to make it fit to the arch or whatever. I also have my chainsaw box with me. It's got all my extra chains, gas, oil, safety equipment for the chainsaws, all in one place. I'll bring both the saws as well because I have 2 saws. You never know, for whatever reason, one of the saws might not want to start. Who knows? I have both of them. I might as well bring them with me. So I'll also bring 2 jacks with me. I have my high lift jack and a bottle jack. The bottle jack is really handy for this kind of stuff, especially bigger logs. You can put the jack underneath the log and jack up one end of it, for instance, if that needs to happen. I also have my PV, which is going to be good for moving logs around. Probably not super handy in this case with such a big log. It's also probably getting used more as a pry bar. I also have my logging tongs in case I need to use those for grabbing a log if I need to pick it up a little bit to get a chain underneath it. So I also have my winch battery and a few blocks of wood. The blocks of wood I use for chalking the tires on my truck or trailer to help with the winching so I don't have the truck in park the whole time, which is bad for the parking pin on the transmission. And then it's just handy to have blocks of wood in case you need to put a block of wood underneath a log or something if you're trying to get a chain around it or whatever. Just handy to have some blocks. And then in the truck I also have a couple extra chains. So now the adventure begins, and I'm still really excited because I still technically don't know what to expect because I haven't seen this in person. So it's still pretty exciting, just that unknown part. So one thing I forgot to mention when we're talking about Craigslist was if the postings are usually pretty vague because people don't really know what they have, they're trying to get rid of it, whatever. So they might not say how big the tree is, and they might post a picture where the tree kind of looks, or the log looks bigger. You can't get a good scale on it. So what I'll do is I'll put the address into Google and go to the street view, and if the tree was in their front yard, if it's a smaller lot, you can usually see how big the tree was and kind of get a better idea of what you're dealing with. So it's already pretty hot out today. Working up a sweat already. Feels pretty good. So let's go. There it is. Alright. Alright, so I was able to create a bit of a channel underneath the log using the PD to kind of scoop out some dirt and then shove a chain through it. And I got the chain around it, but I'm looking at this approach. I'm in this alley. So I think what I'm gonna have to do here is reposition the truck so I'm kind of in that way, coming back into this because this needs to get turned and then loaded. So I think I'm gonna move the truck around a little bit first. So the first thing I have to do is get this log turned 90 degrees, which is probably gonna be pretty difficult based on the way I have it chained right now in the middle. But since that's the only place I can get a chain around it, I'm gonna give it a few pulls with the arch and we'll see if I can get it to move a little bit so I can then shift the chain to the end or towards the end.
How you doing?
Good about yourself.
Boy, you got your work cut out for you for that thing.
That's part of the fun.
Huh?
That's part of the fun.
Yeah, I hear you. I live next door. I watched them cut that down last week.
So the log looks pretty well aligned, so now I'll try and get it lifted up onto the trailer. So the side of the log is getting caught on the upright of the arch, so I'm going to try and shove it over with a jack so I can hopefully get it between the uprights of the arch and get it passing through there. Now the easier thing to do would be to move the whole truck and trailer forward a little bit so I have more approach space, but I don't really have anywhere to go forward since I'm pretty close already to the neighbor across the alley's garage door. So that's not working so well, so what I'll do is grab my chainsaw and cut this little part of the log off. I'm not too worried about it a whole lot because this is likely going to become the offcut side when I go to slab this log up into lumber. So I can rig the log for the second lift. That's going to be to lift the back end of the log up onto the trailer deck. And now the last phase of the loading process, since this thing is on the deck already, all I have to do is chain it directly to the winch and drag it the rest of the way onto the trailer bed.
Well, you got it.
Ta-da!
Yeah, you know what you're doing, that's for sure.
All right, so there we go. All ready to go home. Still a lot of stuff here. Maybe I'll come back. Who knows? It's Craigslist. This could be gone tomorrow. They could be here for a month. But that's what that butt looks like. Big tree. Big tree. So not too bad. That was an hour and a half, start to finish. Pulled out of the driveway at 11. It's 12:30 now. And now the last thing I'll do here is coat all of the exposed cuts with some anchor seal to seal them up so they don't end up checking. I ended up spending like a pretty good amount of time talking to the neighbor. He ended up watching pretty much the entire loading process and was fairly entertained. He was wondering about what I'm going to do with it, so we're talking about all of that, how I make lumber out of it and make furniture and stuff like that. And he was really interested in that. So part of the enjoyment for me of going out and pick up these things is talking to people and being able to share my passion with just people out there in the world, and they know that this is going to become something better than just being thrown away in the garbage. So I hope this inspires you to get out there and maybe pick up one of these urban trees. There's tons of them out there. There's a lot of them that just end up in the landfill. They're chipped or just cut for firewood or whatever. So there's definitely a potential there to use these things. Now they might not always be perfect, but in the end, at least you get a really great story, and it's a lot of fun. It's a great adventure and gets you off your butt. So I hope you enjoy this one. Let me know if you have any questions, and until next time, happy woodworking.